How can you not?
And that was Leanna Crawford with How Can You Not? You're on Rima 94.9. It is 16 minutes past 4 and it's that time of day on a Tuesday for Creation Ministries International. And today, well, we've got a big surprise for you. We've got a brand new Creation Ministries speaker. This is Dr. Michael Thompson. Michael holds a bachelor's degree with honours in electrical engineering and a doctorate in coastal engineering from the University of Queensland, where he's since tutored for university courses, machine learning and digital signal processing. And his expertise is in artificial intelligence algorithms, coastal engineering and computer vision. Sounds way too smart for me. But without any further ado, welcome Dr. Michael Thompson.
Thanks, Mick. It's great to be here. That's quite a kind introduction.
Oh, no, it's awesome to have you, Dr. Michael. And I've got to ask first up, how did you become a Christian? We've heard sort of all the other guys have told us how they became Christians, and we've had some very interesting stories from your Creation Ministries guys.
Yeah. Well, I grew up in a Christian family, so that was I had the opportunity to hear about the gospel and all the Bible stories and things from a young age. But I think it was probably about halfway through high school where I really made my own commitment, I guess, and realizing the problem of my sin, and also how I can't do anything about that, and I need Jesus to save me, and I need forgiveness, and I need help through every hour of my life, and so that's where the concept of the gospel, and that I'm a sinner who needs to be saved, that really switched on for me about midway through high school. So so that's probably when I became a Christian, I think. Yeah.
And I guess I've got to ask, so many young people find it tough going through university because university sort of crams your mind with non-Christian thoughts, with so much evolution. How did you get through that period of your life?
Yeah. So I spent about 9 years there, so it was a good portion of time there. It took a little bit of extra time to get my courses done, but one thing that the courses I did were they didn't touch on origins of life and origins of the universe very much. Mm-hmm. So that was one sort of advantage for me. I didn't face that opposition in my coursework, although, having a chat to mates at university while we're working on, on our electronics projects in the lab and stuff like that, you have conversations we have conversations about evolution and God and whether God exists or not. And so there was, I think in university I didn't necessarily face a lot of opposition because of the subjects I did.
What about the doctorate in coastal engineering?
Yeah, so that one, my area in coastal engineering was very physics-based, mm-hmm. and very much testing things that are happening and measuring things that are happening right now, which we CMI talk about observational science all the time and historical science. So I was very much in the observational science side of things. Mm-hmm. There are, of course, so when I went to conferences to present, but also just to listen to other people's research, there were other groups who were doing research on, trying to work out Earth's climate from a long time ago, hundreds of thousands of years. There were ice core research presentations at a fluid dynamics course I went to, and so there was a bit of that around too. Mm-hmm. But the main area of my coastal research was about the physics of the here and now. Wow. And how water works, and especially with sediment and sand, and how it actually moves up the coast and how waves break. I was a bit more in the here and now than historical science.
Okay. And as far as the artificial intelligence is concerned, that's only a fairly new area of science, isn't it?
Yeah, fairly new. I guess for a bit of a history on it, artificial intelligence is really just algorithms that are essentially an automated machine that does something for you, and we tend to call it artificial intelligence when it appears to us to be more autonomous and almost human-like than what we might think of a different machine, just like a motor or something.
Yep.
And I guess I remember in my course that I first learnt about AI, we learnt about Alan Turing.
Yep.
He's a famous...
Are you there? We've lost you. Okay, it is 21 minutes. Whoa, there he is. We got you back. We lost you there for a minute, Michael. You just said you learnt a little bit about Alan Turing and disappeared on us.
Oh, sorry about that. Yeah, so Alan Turing, he sort of worked with a very basic computer compared to what we have now.
Yep.
But he used that to crack a code that the Germans had, and that helped the British, decode messages and get a bit ahead in the war.
Yep.
And after that, he actually, he loved computers and maths, and he started thinking about what AI could look like after seeing what computers could do. And then, so that's kind of where it sort of, I guess, the conception of it, I guess, is. And then over the years, we've had more complex algorithms as computer power got better. But then in the last, I'd say about I think it was about 1998, the year, there was a big breakthrough in neural networks, or convolutional neural networks is what it's called. But essentially they started using a network system that is sort of similar to the way our brain, what we think our brain works, with neurons connected to each other.
Mm-hmm.
And when they started to implement that, the performance of these AI algorithms just grew exponentially. And since then, it's just gotten better and better and better. So it's we've probably heard about it in the media the last 10 years maybe, with in terms of it being groundbreaking.
Yep.
But it's been worked on for quite a while. It's just sort of it's become useful enough for us to see in everyday life though recently.
Now, you mentioned before Alan Turing. I've heard of the Turing test. What is that?
Yeah, that's one of the. I find that very fascinating. The Turing test is essentially, he was thinking about, in his day, looking forward into the future, how good a computer's going to get, and if a computer's set up in a way to mimic a person, when do we kind of, how good is it, and what's a test we can do to check if it's almost at human level intelligence, or supposedly.
Yep.
And the idea is that you've got, if you were two people, or we had one person sitting in a room, and there's a speaker on the other side, and you're not sure if the voice or the words that you're hearing, you're not sure if it's coming from a person or a computer.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just say someone else is either reading what the computer says to say, or they're just saying their own thoughts. And the idea is that if you're listening and you can't tell if it's a person's talking to you or it's an AI talking to you, then the AI's sort of passed the Turing test in a way.
So basically, my Gemini on my phone nowadays could have passed the Turing test.
That's right. So it's. It was only. Before ChatGPT came out publicly, only a couple of years before then, it was a lot of people were still sort of thinking, yeah, we're never really gonna like that. That's a long way off.
Mm-hmm.
And then when that breakthrough came through, it was like, oh, we're not just close to it. It's kind of past it now, and
Wow.
and you can kind of you can kind of tell when something's AI generated, but it's getting much more difficult these days.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, AI, we've created AI to sound like a person. We've actually had a person read it. They use people's voices. They mimic people's voices. So all the computer's doing is giving our information back to us, really. They talk about sentience. They talk about general artificial intelligence. What I'm thinking, when we come back from our break, we might talk a little bit about what is general artificial intelligence and whether you believe a computer really can be sentient or an AI can really be sentient. That would be good. You're on 94.9. It is 26 minutes past 4. We'll be back after this break. That was Chris Tomlin with a song called Home. You're on 94.9. It is 23 minutes to 5, and we have Dr. Michael Thompson on the line. He's from Creation Ministries International. And if you have any questions for Dr. Michael, please send them through to our text line, 0401 949 949. Now, Dr. Michael, we were having a good chat about artificial intelligence, AI, and I was hoping to ask you about sentience or general artificial intelligence. To start with, can you tell us what general artificial intelligence is?
Yeah, so effectively, general artificial intelligence, it means it can do a wide variety of tasks at a higher level than what, it's a bit of a subjective definition, but I guess a wide range of tasks at a higher level than what humans can do. If an AI can get to that stage, it could be considered general intelligence. But I guess it almost gets a little philosophical, but that's the simple way to say what AGI is, general intelligence.
Does AGI mean it can think on its own?
Well, I guess that's part of it. In terms of what we mean by think on its own, for example, you can actually have quite a simple algorithm or machine learning or artificial intelligence model, I should say, that's much less capable than a human, and they call that reinforcement learning, and that just means that it's learning on the go. So some AI models, the ones I've used to program in my research, they were just sort of set and leave, where I'd train it to do one example is try and detect where the breaking edge of a wave is in the ocean.
Yep.
In different pictures might have it and might not, and I'd sit there and I'd label the images and say that's a breaking wave, that's not, that is, that's not. And when I've got thousands of those images, I'd train the model on those labeled images, and the model will learn effectively. It'll adjust its parameters so that it regularly will, when you give it an image, it'll regularly give you the correct yes or no response. And so that's sort of a set and let go. Once I've trained that, I deploy the model and then it just does its thing. But then there's also models that are reinforcement, and that means that's where you've got maybe a robot that's interacting with an environment that's changing around it.
Mm-hmm.
And those systems have similar sorts of models in place, but on top of that, they're programmed within a feedback loop system where it factors in it. It can even retrain the model, and it can change, its targets based on the environmental data that it receives. Yeah. So that's a general intelligence, I guess, would be more of a reinforcement learning model, in the sense that it can actually interact with what's around us. And in that way, you might say, oh, that's a bit closer to what we consider human thinking than just a set and forget program. So that's how people could, I guess, try and make a parallel there. So
can artificial intelligence teach itself? Can it say, okay, today I'm going to go and learn music, and then it will choose to go and learn something new? Can it do that sort of thing?
In a way, I guess at the end of the day, the model's learning from data, and if you've only got a limited source of, let's say you gave so ChatGPT or Copilot, those are the large language models that people are used to now, where you just ask it questions and it feels like a person talking to you. But when they started those models, they weren't live in the sense that they could only give you information that it was trained on from the internet from a certain date.
Right.
Whereas now, if you type up in ChatGPT or Copilot and you say, "Oh, I saw this on the news today, and what's this?" Often it'll actually it's linked to or it's set up to interact live with the internet, so that it can actually retrieve new articles and summarize that new information. So it, in that sense, it's now. It can, I guess you could say, think for itself in the way that it can interact live with new things happening and think about that and then process it. So in terms of learning, if it only had the information from 10 minutes ago, and then the next 12 hours, a whole bunch of, let's say, new scientific discoveries pop up and are published on the internet. Yep. If it doesn't have access to that, I guess you could say it can only learn from the information it's got available on the internet at that time.
Yeah.
But because it's live, as new information comes in, that's how it can learn new things. Because you can only, a model can only learn new things from, you need to have some increase of information to learn new things, generally speaking, if you had a very powerful model. Yeah.
Now, I've used a thing called AI Jesus. It's basically using one of these language models to, I guess, pretend to be Jesus. Someone's probably loaded the Bible into it. What is your take on, and there's not just one of them, there's a lot of people trying to do it, different AI Jesuses out there. What's your take on AI Jesus?
Yeah, it's a bit of a spooky one, isn't it? When I heard that, I went, oh, when I heard the news about that, I was a bit concerned. It's, I mean, at the end of the day, I think something important for people to remember is that an AI model is not inherently good or bad. It's just an algorithm that's trained on data. It's the data that's the important thing.
Yep.
So what do they train the AI Jesus model on? If it's trained on just the Bible, then you probably need a larger language, or you probably need a lot more text than that to train a general model like that. But if most of it's Bible or biblically based teaching from the Bible, or about the Bible, then it's probably going to be not too bad. Like it's not as in a good and evil sense, but as in like not too inaccurate is probably a better way to say it, so we don't.
My guess is this thing was trained on a little bit more than the Bible, in that biblically it could sort of pretty much tell me every verse in the Bible if I asked for a verse. But when I was asking about some of the stuff in the media, things that we'd regard as woke, it was starting to sprout all this stuff that just seemed so wrong to me. I ended up arguing with AI Jesus. So I assume it must have been, well, it would have had the Bible loaded into it, but it seems to have had a whole lot of other stuff loaded in there as well.
Yeah, now that's an interesting point about the sort of the different worldviews it can, or woke worldview, or whatever political worldview it can come across as. That's something that's now built into just about every large language model, like ChatGPT, Copilot, and AI Jesus would be a similar model. They're built in with a system. Oh, well, they need to have those systems because so to start with, you need a massive database to train a model, a large language model. to be effective. So it needs to be bigger than just the length of the Bible. You need much more text. And so the original models are trained on a lot of code from websites, which people used to post questions. How do I code this? Other people would answer it. This is how you code it. Or Reddit is another one. People say, what do you think about this? And everyone shares their opinion and says yes and no. So it's trained on all that information. There's truckloads of information there. And on the average, a lot of the information, let's say on Reddit, is very opinionated. If you looked at all the opinions on Reddit, some of them are just trolls, people trying to pick a fight with people. And so when they first released some of the models that were just trained on the raw data, in a sense, and not filtered very much, when you interacted with the early models, they were really nasty. Well, they felt very nasty. They're not a person, of course, but they're just repeating what they've learned from the data they've got.
Yep.
So also, on the average on the internet, there's more ungodly worldview than godly worldview by a long shot.
Yep.
So if you're to build a model, even an AI Jesus model, even if you try to filter out as much of the bad stuff as possible, you need a huge amount of data anyway just to get it working well. So you're going to have to put some things in anyway, and that's always going to creep into the answers sometimes, because that's just what it's trained on. So that's one of the challenges. But the other thing is that after the model's done, you can also train it afterwards to provide answers that you think are better than others. So with ChatGPT, they did a system where there's a ranking system where they get the original model, and they get the model to produce 4 different answers to a question, possibly. And they get people to sit down at a computer and read those answers, and then they'd rank those answers from best to worst. And of course, they've got criteria like it's really bad if it is politically incorrect in this way, or it's really good if it promotes this sort of mainstream science, and which isn't always a bad thing, but you can imagine what happens when it comes to evolution and things like that. And it gets ranked in that way, and then those rankings, the model actually gets trained again based on those rankings.
So to have a good AI Jesus, you'd have to have your own pastor doing all that ranking, so as the ultimate answers, the answers in the end, would be as close to what you're used to, I guess.
That's right. So I think what would have happened with the AI Jesus, I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure they would have had that sort of system with maybe a set of pastors in who, or possibly even theologians and Bible scholars, some who may not even be Christian. And so you might get a mix of liberal theology in there, and you might get a mix of conservative theology. But of course, whichever institution, they can pick and choose the experts that they want the AI Jesus answers to sound like. Yeah. So it's not a pure thing. It's very malleable in terms of how you want it to hear.
Yeah.
And of course, the actual Bible we've got, and the written records and the original texts, we can't change it. It's the way it is. It's the way God wanted it, and that's
So I guess if we want to do some more research on God's word, we're better off just going straight to the Bible than to an artificial intelligence.
I think so. Yeah, I would be very cautious with the AI Jesus stuff. But
well, look, our time's up for this afternoon, Dr. Michael. I thank you so much for a very interesting talk, and of course we've got you again next week, which will be awesome. I'm looking forward to it already. And I thank you so much.
Thanks, Mick. Really appreciate it.
You're on 94.9. It is 10 minutes to 5.